Hello, my name is Dorothy McFadden. I'm one of the registered dietitians that works with the St. Luke's Bariatric program. Today I'm going to talk to you about National Nutrition Month, and the theme for 2014 is Enjoy the Taste of Eating Right. The objectives of this talk, you should be able to list at least 2 examples of ways you can use herbs and spices to flavor food without salt, and describe how eating at home costs less and is healthier than eating out. Based on a food and health survey done in 2013, the top 5 drivers that impact food buying decisions include taste, price, healthfulness, convenience, and sustainability. And today we're going to talk about taste, price, and healthfulness. You need to use all 5 of your senses when you sit down to a meal. You're going to listen to the people that you are entertaining or who are eating the meal with you. You're going to smell the foods that you're going to eat. You're going to look at the different textures and touch the different textures of the foods that you're eating. You're going to look at the food that you're going to eat. There's a saying that one of my supervisors used to always use, is that you eat with your eyes first. The food needs to look appealing. And of course, taste. That's the most important sense that you're using when you have a meal. And I'm going to tie this all into the post-surgical plate, which is basically how weight loss surgery patients should be eating about 18 months or greater after their surgery. We want you to eat about 1 cup to 1.25 cups of food per meal, which will vary. Half of your plate should be a protein source, 3 or 4 ounces of lean protein. Then you should have 1/4 of your plate, or about 1/2 cup, be non-starchy vegetables, and that includes like your leaf lettuce, green peppers, radishes, tomatoes, asparagus, broccoli, cauliflower, all those delicious vegetables that don't have a lot of carbohydrate in them. And then the other 1/4 of your plate should be 1/4 cup of starch or carbohydrates, so like corn and potatoes, your starchy vegetables, lima beans, rice, whole grain pasta, whole grain breads. And also you can put in this part of your plate like maybe 1/2 cup of fruit, like a piece of fresh fruit also could go into this part of the plate. And that's how you make up a healthy, balanced diet. Why use herbs and spices? The current recommendation for sodium intake is 2,300 milligrams a day. The average daily sodium intake for Americans is 3,436 milligrams per day. I've counseled many patients concerning their sodium intake, and the first thing that people will say to me is, I don't add salt to any of my food. There is no salt in my diet. And then when we sit down and decipher their diet and add up the milligrams of sodium, it can be over 4,000 milligrams per the day. And that can be if you're going through the drive-thru and eating fast food, if you're using processed box products, if you're using, ready-to-cook foods. There's sodium in a lot of the foods that you eat. So even if you're not adding sodium, you can still have a high sodium diet. The current recommendation for sodium intake in people ages 50 and greater is 1,500 milligrams per day, which is much more challenging. You would need to eat more whole foods and foods that are not processed, and again, start using more herbs and spices for flavoring. So I want to talk to you about herb equivalents. A tablespoon of fresh herbs that you can maybe get from your garden or purchase, and you would maybe chop them up with some of your kitchen shears, is equal to a teaspoon of dried herbs, because once the herbs are dried, they're much more concentrated in flavor. And then ground herbs are even more concentrated. So a teaspoon of dried herbs equals 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of ground herbs. And just as a general rule of thumb, so you know what your palate likes, 1/4 teaspoon of ground dried herbs per 4 servings, or you could use 1/4 teaspoon in a pound of meat, or 2 cups of soup or sauce, and adjust from there. Everybody has different tastes. And then just some ideas for herb and spice pairings. I know it's challenging when you first start using herb and spices. I tell people, do not go out and buy like a big container with like 20 herbs and spices in it. You'll never use them all before they go bad. Start off by just using maybe 5 or 6 herbs and consistently use them and get familiar with them, and then work your way from there. For instance, Beef, adding onion and pepper, you can't go wrong there. Sage and thyme, and then you can try some unusual flavors like nutmeg. Pork, garlic goes beautiful with pork, onion and sage, pepper and oregano. Ginger, you can use a wide variety of herbs and spices on chicken. You can use the sweeter spices and also some of your spicier spices. So for instance, ginger and adds a very nice flavor to chicken, or you can do marjoram, oregano, paprika, poultry seasoning, rosemary, sage, tarragon, thyme. You can also use different fruits to flavor chicken. Fish, you can use something spicy like a curry powder, dill, or dry mustard goes nicely with fish. Paprika and pepper. Carrots, you can do something a little bit sweeter like cinnamon. That goes very nicely with carrots. Or you can do like a dill, a marjoram, rosemary, or sage. Green beans, I like to put pepper and garlic on my green beans, but you also can do like oregano, thyme, dill. Summer squash goes well with cloves, nutmeg, rosemary, sage. And of course, tomatoes, the ultimate pairing is tomatoes with basil. Tomatoes with basil and garlic, but you also can add in some onion, oregano, parsley, peppers. So there's a wide variety of pairings that you can do. You just need to experiment. And if you don't like a pairing that you make, just don't do it again. You know, just keep working with different herbs and spices and get familiar with them. And then some ideas for how you can incorporate different spices and herbs and flavors into your diet. I'm going to break it down by different food sources. So for instance, your low-fat dairy products, they're an excellent source of carbohydrate and protein, especially your Greek yogurts. If you get Greek yogurt that's plain, you can use it on tacos instead of sour cream, and you can stir in some cayenne pepper to give it a little spice and kick. You can also use your plain Greek yogurt as a dip for raw vegetables and mix in diced cucumber or dill, or add thawed frozen spinach. You can also freeze your vanilla-flavored yogurt, and you can add fresh mint or honey before you freeze it, and you can eat it with a spoon just like frozen yogurt. Another good source of protein would be tuna, and you can put the tuna on lettuce leaves instead of like pita or bread. I recommend the cosmopolitan lettuce. That's like it's a crossbreed of iceberg and romaine, but it's nice and crisp, and you can use it just like you would use like a pita with a minimal amount of calories. But you can add plain Greek yogurt to your tuna instead of mayo, and you can add diced red onion and celery for flavoring. That would be a nice meal. You can also put tuna in like a whole grain pasta salad and add in your fresh veggies and put in some parsley. That would be very nice tasting. And you can also make tuna into a patty and bake it. And this would be good like in the beginning stages of your diet after weight loss surgery, because the tuna would be nice and moist. So you can mix the canned tuna with eggs and breadcrumbs, parsley and onions, and bake it. And that would be a nice high protein meal. Fruits. Well, whenever I ask people, do you eat fruit, almost everybody says, well, I eat bananas. I like bananas. So bananas are very versatile. They're very sweet. You can add sliced banana to a peanut butter sandwich and grill it, so you have that nice melted peanut butter over the bananas. The bananas, when they're grilled, are a little bit sweeter. You can use bananas in smoothies with low-fat milk or yogurt. And also the classic recipe for bananas is banana bread. You know, when your bananas start to go bad and they get too sweet and mushy and you don't want to eat them raw, you can put them into banana bread. And to make your banana bread even healthier, you can swap the oil out with applesauce and it still stays very moist. Okay, your whole grains. You can use whole grain cereal. Now, as a weight loss surgery patient, you don't want to add a lot of milk because then it becomes like drinking with your meals. So you could just put a little bit of milk on to moisten the cereal, or you could mix the cereal in with yogurt, and that would be another good option. We recommend choosing cereals that have at least 3 grams of fiber per serving, and there's a lot of great alternatives with high protein cereals out there. Post has a whole line of cereals that contain 8 grams of protein. Kashi has several Go Lean cereals that give you 11 or 13 grams of protein per serving. You can also make a nice little beautiful parfait. If you look at this picture here, it looks like something that you would get at a restaurant. It's very easy to make at home. You just layer some fresh fruit, some low-fat yogurt, and some granola or healthy cereal, and you have yourself a nice little breakfast. You can also use cereals as a healthy coating for your meats, like chicken. It'll help keep your chicken moist, so you can crush some cereal in a plastic bag and add some herbs and spices. Dip your egg in egg wash, dip your chicken in egg wash, and then the cereal, and bake it, and the coating will keep your poultry moist, okay? Sweet potato. That's an example of a very healthy vegetable, but it is high in carbohydrates, so that would go in your other carbohydrate slot. You can just bake a sweet potato, cut it in a quarter, and just eat it out of the skin. They're delicious. Excellent source of your beta-carotene and all different carotenes, which helps prevent cancer. You can top it with yogurt or low-fat sour cream with chives. You can make it mashed and make it kind of a little bit sweeter with cinnamon or nutmeg. And you can also bake them. This is something my kids like. You can slice them into wedges, toss them with olive oil, and sprinkle them with paprika and a little bit of salt before baking. Or just, like I said earlier, you can just do some of your other herbs and spices, like even Italian seasoning, and just add some parsley and garlic, and you have a very nice, crisp tasting baked fries. Okay, so we also are going to talk about price, or how to save money. If you cook more and eat out less, you're going to save money. Back in 1960, 26% of the total food expenditures were away from home. Today, 49% of the total food expenditures are away from home, meaning people are eating out 49% of the time, and that includes doing takeout. The average restaurant meal has over 1,000 calories and more than 3,000 milligrams of sodium, and that's in one meal. So how can you save money? Well, at the grocery store, buy fresh fruits and vegetables that are in season. Look for sales and coupons. Stick to your list. Do not vary from your list. Do not make impulse buys. Try canned or frozen fruits and vegetables. Those are more economical if they're not in season. Buy in bulk when items are in sale. Store brands are generally much cheaper than name brands. And buy fruits and vegetables in their simplest forms. In other words, get a whole carrot instead of a shredded carrot, because you're paying for the carrots being shredded. Don't shop when you're hungry, because you'll always overbuy and impulse buy, and compare your unit prices. Most grocery stores now will give you the total price and the unit price, so you can see how much it costs per ounce or pound. I challenge you with an activity. You should think of ways that you can have spinach. You can use it fresh in a salad, frozen, we mentioned earlier, in a dip. You can also put spinach in with squash and cranberries and bake it. Spinach is a very versatile vegetable that you can use. So remember, healthy food can taste good. Swap salt for flavorful herbs and spices. Cooking at home can save you significant money. It also can reduce your sodium and fat intake. Okay? Thank you.